Hello, good day. This is Christopher Emge from the Greater Bloomington Chamber of Commerce Success School. We're doing another career video, a career on web design and so much more. Today we have Dave Martin with us. Dave, do you want to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you do, how you got there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me here, Chris. Talking about myself is I is just starting out. I would say it's difficult to come up with my story. Where do I start? Do I start where I was born, where I moved?
How about let's start with what you, Dave Martin Productions, and then you can kind of go backwards.
So Dave Martin Productions. So when did I really start thinking about my career, I guess? When did I really understand that I was going to do what I'm doing? And so it started for me in high school for sure. It started when I was a gamer, when I was young. My parents bought me an Atari, and then that Atari turned into like a Nintendo and a keep going down the evolution, and I'm still got gaming systems. So it's technology and gaming and art and music, all these things kind of have coalesced in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and we transitioned from the analog world into the digital world. And it was an amazing time to be able to see that. And it really got me interested in technology and changing technology. And so in high school, I had some great teachers, and there was a really good program called the Franklin Initiative.
Which is
And
now the Success School, just to,
yes,
yes, yes.
and through that opportunity, I got to spend time at a couple different Bloomington businesses. One of the first ones, internship opportunities that I had was at the Herald Times. It was a one-day career shadow day. I'm not sure if it was the Franklin Initiative, but I definitely remember following around David Snodgrass at the Herald Times and like seeing what a photographer goes through on a day-to-day basis. And we were riding around in his jalopy of a car, and I was like, wow, this is what a photographer does. He was just like going all over the city and covering the beat. And, it wasn't a glamorous job at all, but it was so cool to actually see somebody at work. And like, I was amazed watching the process and having him shoot all these photos and going back to the Herald Times and watching him like go through these hundreds of photos that he would shoot and looking through the negatives and like just talking to him about like, how do you make a choice? How do you go through all these photos and like choose? So that was an awesome experience. That was followed up with an internship at Digital Media, which is now run by Michael Budd. It was still run by Michael Budd, and I shadowed his IT guy, Clint. I don't remember Clint's last name, but that's where I learned file structure architecture and how to use Photoshop. And Digital Media was a company offering training software for companies and individuals who wanted to learn things like Quark and like technology programs. And they produced how-to videos on CD-ROMs and then packaged them up and sent them out to people. And so it was really interesting seeing how their company worked and seeing Clint run a couple, like 10 to 15 different websites and how that worked. And I got a really in-depth look of web development and Photoshop, and that really ignited my passion. I was like, wow, this is really cool.
And this is in high school, Dave?
Yeah, this is my junior year, I think, in high school.
Okay.
And then it was either my junior or senior year after that. I went and shadowed Steve Volan and Greg Volan over at Blue Marble. And Blue Marble was Bloomington's first internet service provider. And it still is around today. People with at bluemarble.net, lots of them out there, and they're Smithville customers. So Down the road, we can talk about how I eventually worked at Smithville for
Yeah.
3 years and
Well, so
all that.
you're getting into this, and are you getting involved? You're getting involved in high school, and sort of you're piquing your curiosity. So and so, what you're getting involved in anything you can that kind of revolves around technology, and then you're graduating from high school. What route do you take, and what route, and how has that changed maybe now? Because I'm thinking you probably at least thought, at least at the time, you need a college degree, or maybe you didn't, but you don't. Like today, you just need to get involved and learn things.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what got me interested in this internship program was the fact that I could get out of high school. Like I could get out of the building and go out and, have a little bit of freedom. And, when you graduate from high school, you get a lot of freedom. You don't you're 18 years old, you're an adult. And you kind of, yeah, you can go in a lot of different ways. And so um, the web design and things really piqued my interest. I realized I wanted to do that. And I wasn't sure, should I go to school? Should I go to IU? Should I go to Ivy Tech? Should I take a year off? I don't know. But I went to IU. I signed right back up right out of high school and moved into the dorms, had a great freshman year. IU is a great school. Learned a lot, had a lot of fun, probably too much fun. And yeah, I decided to kind of just knock out my first year, get all the general stuff out of the way, learn what 4-year school was all about. And then my sophomore year, Bobby Knight got fired, and that changed everything. But I also found out I was having a child, and so life kind of hit me in the face, and I realized, like, hey, I better. I'm not going to make it through 4 years at this rate. That I better, focus on raising my family, getting started, and really start building up my skills. And so it's really hard to find a job in this industry locally.
Well, yeah.
And so, I just kept doing web design and web development as kind of side projects and things that I was really interested in while I was still going to school and just continuing to learn. And after I left IU, I worked in so many different places. I worked in mostly restaurants in the hospitality industry. I've worked at Cracker Barrel, Olive Garden, Grisanti's, D'Angelo's, and just I can make some really good Italian food.
Yes.
So I've worked probably over 20 different jobs in my life, and just kind of scrapped by. And that's kind of what I feel like you have to do in Bloomington. You just got to work and try and make your money go as far as possible. So I've always had a full-time job somewhere else doing something else, whether it's in customer service or waiting tables or whatever, that train me on certain things. I worked in a corporate environment, so I got a lot of corporate training.
Now, was that Smithville? Was that what would you call a corporate environment?
I would say Cracker Barrel.
Oh, Cracker Barrel, yes. You're talking so in the restaurants, yes.
Yeah, so like Cracker Barrel, when it first opened up here in Bloomington, I opened up the store. Their traveling training team came and trained us all. And so I'm so impressed by Cracker Barrel and their standards. So, that's one example. When I worked at Walmart in electronics when I was in high school, I got some training on like computer module training and, how to work in a corporate environment. But then I worked at local restaurants and local businesses and saw kind of the other side, where small business entrepreneurs and figuring it out from the ground up. And so my kind of ethos is to observe everything around me and just learn as much as I can about what works and what doesn't work. And that's applied really well to technology and web design. Um, it's changed a whole lot, but it's still very much the same. Um, when so you
So
know
Dave, fast forward. So you're working, basically you have this passion project of technology and you're sort of working uh, other sort of hospitality industry jobs to make ends meet. You gotta have a family. When does the nighttime job pay the bill, so to speak, right? Don't quit your day job until the nighttime pays bills. So when did that sort of happen where you got where your foot was in the door where you could make this a career? Because you've done a good job of kind of giving us an insight of just sort of taking all these bits and pieces of jobs that you wouldn't think have anything to do with what you do now, but you sort of learn by um, being that person who takes into how things are working and what works well and what doesn't, and applying that to your trade now.
Yeah, it's always been kind of in the back of my mind. When I started school, I knew that I wanted to do web design, and I knew that I wanted to do marketing, but I didn't know what marketing was. I didn't really understand what these things were, and nobody really did because it was so new. And so Ivy Tech didn't really have like a career path for web designers unless you went to a different school and went to visual communications. There wasn't anything that was like that I could find that would really define my path. And so I just kind of maintained that full-time job and scrapped by and paid the bills and lived paycheck to paycheck. And I continued to do that and just had in the back of my mind, when can I work for myself? When can I jump off the cliff and be the master of my own destiny? And that didn't happen until November of 2018, actually, just recently, where I decided that I have the skills, I've done enough work. I no longer want to be in a position where somebody can let me go unexpectedly. And I should just be working for myself. There are all these things that I can do, and let's give it a shot. And that was a great decision for me. So 2019, I worked my butt off and tried as hard as I can to see how much work I could get done. And it was great. It was really successful. And it's really kind of ramped up my business, and 20 prepared me for this year where we're all remote working now and we're all a lot more comfortable using this technology. And yeah, it's been great, and I'm excited to kind of see where it's going to go over the next 20 to 25 years that I'm going to still be working.
And what's still some of the challenges or misconceptions, right, on what you do as sort of a web designer? And then we can sort of be at the final part of this. If you want to go through your web site for a few minutes, we could do that.
Okay, sure. Challenges and misconceptions. I think one of the biggest challenges is that everybody can build a website. And everybody knows somebody else that can build a website for them. And a lot of people that I work with know somebody and have started working with somebody, maybe their brother or somebody knows web design, and they put something up for them, and it's just, that's it. And so a lot of people get a bad taste in their mouth, I think, for lack of better words, of like what their web presence really is. Some people start out on Squarespace or GoDaddy Website Builder or just all these different platforms that are available, and they think that that's it. So one of the challenges is to work with my customers to educate them and make sure that they understand the choices that we're making as we go. And another challenge is that some people don't care to learn that stuff. They don't want to know, and they want it done. They want you to do it, and they don't care how it's done. They just want it done. And that's really hard for me to build an effective web presence for somebody without their involvement. So yeah, I think that's really key and really critical to what I do. And being a really successful developer or designer, it's really key to work with people so that you manage their expectations, so that you are on the same page, so that you can build a lot more effectively. So yeah, I'll just go through and show you.
So everybody else, since we're about at the 15-minute mark, I just want to say this is going to be kind of the bonus material of looking at Dave's webpage and sort of giving a little inside.
So Google, if you Google David Martin Design, I've got my Google My Business here. This is Google My Business, my website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Yelp, MapQuest, Zoom Info, Gravatar. There's my dog Dexter. This is Google My Business. So there's a lot of places you can check out what I do online.
And how often do you monitor your online presence?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah, I mean, Google Search Console, Google My Business, Google Analytics, all of these are data sources. And looking at the data that comes in for my websites is really important. And, you know, just constantly evolving this. It took me a long time to build this website up to where it is today, but it's very simple. But it's because I've been looking at the data of what people are searching for and modifying my content to match what people are searching for. So we talked a little bit about myself. You can check out my About page if you want.
Sure, but I think you have a little bit of what you do besides web design.
Yeah, web design, and really I do quite a bit. What people ask me to help with is what I do, and so I really enjoy photography. I'm trying to get more into that business. I just got a new camera and took photojournalism in high school with Mr. Wilson at Bloomington North, and that really got me interested. I was part of the yearbook team and really got me interested in the photography plus the Herald Times. And
yeah, the Herald Times story, sure.
The web design, web hosting. I run my own web hosting business, which is really, really key in getting me to be able to work for myself. I've got this server here where I've got a lot of local businesses that I manage their web presence and have them on my server.
And how much you've talked about some of the analytics on the technology side, but what about the word of mouth?
Yeah, reviews are really important and word of mouth is really important. So I think, you know, I've done a good job of asking people for reviews on Google, on Facebook, on Clutch is a new service out there, on LinkedIn, and actual word of mouth too. You know, I'm sure that there are people out there who are talking about me. And, Richard Burden, I have to say thank you to him. He was the first person that referred me to Urban Styles, a company that was started by a Bloomington North grad. It was a hip hop clothing company with a small business that they needed an e-commerce website. It was my first paying project ever, and Richard referred me to them, and I set up a OS Commerce store for them, and yeah, just did a really good job. I thought I didn't really know anything about e-commerce, and they didn't either, but we learned together, and I charged them 25 bucks an hour. And yeah, then because I did such a good job, they told Richard, and Richard referred me to somebody else, the African American Documentation Project at IU. And IU then hired me to build an interactive online website that featured this offline. It was an offline exhibit of prominent African Americans at IU that I was able to translate to an online website, and just knocked it out of the park. It was such a fun job, and that actually made me form my company because IU wanted me to have a tax ID number. So yeah, that really got me kicked off. And Richard was the first person that convinced me that I was an actual web designer. So it was really hard for me to think of myself in those terms. When am I ever going to be a web designer? But really early on in the game, he said, "You are a web designer. Like, you built things for the web, and that's what you should say." And so from that point on, I said I'm a web designer. And when people said cool, I was like, yeah, it is cool. So
yeah. And then here you are, and it took a little bit of a push to get you out on your own with that that confidence.
yeah, confidence is so critical, but you have to have skills, I think, to build that confidence. And it's the chicken and the egg type of game, which comes first.
So Dave, we're already very late on time. Final words of advice for people interested in somewhat of that technology, web design career that you've sort of carved out here.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is to think about accessibility, to think about the structure of your information. Think about it in terms of how can you help people. And when you build something, you got to think about who's going to use it and what they're trying to accomplish. What is the intent that you're trying to get people to do? And then just work hard. Just work hard and network and follow your passions, and do what you really love to do. And I think that is some of the best advice I've had, is to do what you love, and the money will follow. I'm still waiting on the money to follow, but I do what I love. Like, every day, it doesn't feel like work.
And that's a great thing. Well, we'll leave it at that. Dave, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And we'll catch everybody at the Success School and another career video. Thank you very much.